Welcome back everyone, this is J7Jace bringing you some Dancer builds. Now as a standalone and primary job, I don't think they are that great because their overall stats and growth aren't spectacular, meaning Dance can be better used as a secondary on other jobs so they can get better stats like overall HP. But I'll show you some for fun builds when using Dancer as a primary. This first one I showed in the past is a Banish dancing build where you want to start dancing with something like Slow or Polka Dance. Then once you get hit by a physical attack, Banish will trigger, and even when your dance goes off, you will still remain invisible as long as you don't take another action. So for this build, our abilities will be items, but honestly, any secondary you prefer will work. Then Banish so we remain invisible, Defense boost to increase our survivability, and any movement ability, just make sure to move out of the way or don't stand by your allies, because if an enemy casts an area of effect attack, you will still take damage, despite being transparent. Being invisible doesn't mean invincible. For your equipment, I prefer Hydra Scale Bag for the 1 speed, so we can start dancing right away, but Panther Skin Bag for the regen is also nice. Then equip Ribbon for immunity to all negative status ailments, Mirage Vest if you're on War of the Lions, but on the PS1, use Black Garb or Rubber Suit. And lastly, for your accessory, there are several things that can be very good, such as Septim for that invisibility and haste, Sortilege for protect as this will stack with defense boost, Chantage if you really want to break the game with permanent re-raise and regen, but for my War of the Lions players, I like Brigand's Glove for that 1 extra speed and haste. As for the strategy, what you want to do is start slow dancing, and if an enemy targets you, you'll want Banish to go off. Move away from your party members and just keep waiting without taking a different action. And pray that your dancer will slowly reduce the speed of all enemies. This works best with a team of dancers and a few mimes, but it can fit in any party setup, but you'll essentially be doing fights 4 versus 1. I also recommend increasing your bravery as high as you can and to have lower faith, but if you want to use magic as a secondary, keep it relatively high. These other builds I have for the dancer will be a bit more gimmicky and fun, and I don't recommend using these in harder fights for the most part. This first one is a parrying dancer build with cloths. If you didn't know, these weapons have a very high weapon block, so they are among the best to use with weapon guard. But it's essentially still taking a 50-50, so I recommend equipping a cloak or mantle as well. Even though their job evasion isn't so great, your chance to evade some attacks will drastically increase. So for this build, equip the best cloth you can get. Wormweave Silk is best, but you need to poach a Tiamat or do Rendezvous for it, so Cashmere from the shop is good enough. And if you want to do more damage with your cloth, equip gear that will give both MA and PA, as its weapon damage formula is PA plus MA divided by 2 times our weapon power. It also has some range, but still don't expect big damage with it. So for this first setup, I recommend equipment that will give more HP. So Wormweave Silk, Acacia Hat, Rubber Suit, and Featherweave Cloak. Then any secondary, Parry, Defense Boost, and Life Bond. The dancer's HP isn't so great, so you won't be able to take a lot of hits. You can always sub Featherweave Cloak for Sortilege though for protect, as this stacks with Defense Boost. If you want to do more damage with your cloths, use Brass Coronet, Power Garb, and Genji Glove to really maximize your damage. Then use Attack Boost instead of Defense Up. The damage isn't great and you'll have very low HP, but it can be fun. Sort of reminds me of the Rat Tail or Towel Whip in real life, just don't expect for it to kill.
It will not kill.
For the last build, it will also be a melee build, but this time we're inspired by the Assassins, who sadly we can't use. So for your abilities, use Throw, Mana Shield or Shida Hadori, Dual Wield, and Move plus 3 to increase our mobility and range with Throw. Now for your equipment, use 2 Zwill Straight Blades, Acacia Hat, Brave Suit, and Brigand's Glove. It's not the best melee build in the game by far, but at least we can truly say we're using the dancer. This about wraps up today's video. To me, dancers aren't the strongest job in the game, but in certain party setups and in battles with a lot of enemies, they can be pretty useful. Just don't try and melee or make them a frontline fighter in more challenging fights, and you're good to go. I hope you found this video helpful or entertaining, because it's time for me to say